From the sea to the mountains, the Pacific Northwest is known for its scenic views and unique environments. But with warming temperatures, these environments are changing, and we are dedicated to staying on top of it. Thanks for joining us for this Environment Northwest special. I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti here at Tacoma's Point Defiance Park. We begin with our crabbing crisis. For the second year in a row, snow crabbing in the Bering Sea was canceled after billions of crabs vanished. We traveled to Kodiak, Alaska to find out why. It's peaceful in Kodiak, Alaska. An ecosystem where all species are reliant on each other.
Hey, you got this one on? Good morning. Beautiful day here in Kodiak.
Yeah, good morning.
A quiet day on the bay.
Sounds like things might be slowing down out there a little.
And that is the problem.
Yeah, winding down here. So.
This is usually the time of year when crabbers are frantically getting ready for a long season, but this year is different.
In a normal year, you'd have, people walking back and forth, boats transiting from the dock over here to over here, putting pots on, getting gear ready. If anyone can find them, you can. So.
Commercial crabbing is a family business for Gabriel Prout.
Have a good one, Mike. We'll talk to you later.
But commercial crabbing is once again canceled this year for snow crabs in the Alaskan Bering Sea.
What's happened in the last couple of years has been completely unprecedented and a complete shock and surprise to the industry.
To understand the current crabbing crisis, we have to take a look back. Gabriel says crabbing has always been a staple in this local economy.
Bering Sea crab fishing has always been a very lucrative business of guys coming back with a boatload of crab, making $100,000 in a matter of a month or two.
And catch levels are tightly monitored by government leaders. Every year, information on the crab population is gathered by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and is reviewed by scientists and a council of leaders from Northwest states to set overfishing levels. The state of Alaska ultimately sets the total for how many crabs can be caught each year based on NOAA's survey.
So this is a male juvenile snow crab.
For the first time ever in 2022 and now again in 2023, these scientists and leaders canceled commercial snow crabbing completely, something research biologist Aaron Fedewa says NOAA did not see coming.
It was evidently a population collapse, and 10 billion snow crab had disappeared from the system.
In 2018, there were an estimated 12.2 billion snow crabs in the Bering Sea. 2019 totals brought just shy of 5 billion, but no red flags were raised at the time. In 2020, NOAA canceled their summer survey, creating a gap in the data. Then in 2021, when the survey returned, the worst numbers ever recorded, barely more than 1 billion snow crabs in the Bering Sea, down 10 billion from just 3 years prior.
I did the bulk of the stations in the eastern Bering Sea that snow crab typically inhabit, and it was very apparent that something was wrong. We dropped the net down at stations where we normally get thousands and thousands of those small juvenile snow crab, and they were virtually absent from those high density stations.
She says simultaneous with that first drop in crab numbers, 2018 and 2019 brought record warm water, and that had many indirect impacts on the species, ultimately leading to a large-scale mortality event. Those impacts now seen back-to-back years.
I do think for an Arctic species, the future is uncertain. Like I said, I'm an optimist, and I can only hope that the conditions continue to support viable populations of snow crab.
She says they're seeing increasing juvenile crabs now, but it could take years for them to mature to catchable size.
Whether or not we see a lot of crab is all relative. If we see a lot of crab one year, it doesn't always mean that we'll see them the next year.
I haven't got to reach out to anyone yet.
Families like Gabriel's are left waiting for those juvenile crabs to mature and hopefully survive.
It's extremely difficult.
A species that, for them,
that comes out to about 175.
makes up 80 to 90% of their income, and now multiple years of depleted income are catching up.
We're at risk of losing our small family fishing businesses, second and third generation fishermen families.
Data from this year shows temperatures in the Bering Sea are getting back closer to normal, but does not mean it will stay that way. Right now, it's a waiting game. Scientists say canceling crabbing season will give those juvenile crabs time to mature, but that could take years. And it's not just crabbers feeling the impacts. Consumers will also see changes in price at the store. Erica Zucco has a look at what this means for the seafood industry as a whole.
At Pike Place Market's oldest fish stand,
We had crab, salmon, halibut.
people from across the country
St. Louis, where, Missouri?
come just to get a taste of an industry so iconic to the Northwest.
You gotta feed the people, it's what we do.
City Fish co-owner Neil Brebner has sold fish in the market for 2 decades and says costs of doing business have soared.
The increase in general has been amazing. I mean, it's just through the roof. It's the cost of diesel going up, just everything in general, demand. The prices have really just gone through the roof.
Crabbing closures added to the challenges. Fortunately for City Fish, they sell a wide variety of seafood.
Here, try that. That's our smoked salmon right there.
It's harder when your business centers around crab, like Captain Mark Castos.
We're family owned, and it's these closures have been pretty tough.
He says closures are just part of the problem.
Everything kind of changed this last year. A lot of the seafood prices all went down, so it was kind of like a double whammy there.
His crew in Seattle's Ballard neighborhood is gearing up to hit the water after a year of making do with work like tendering cod. But as for fishing king crab, they'll be doing it differently.
This year we're actually combining my brother's boat's crew and our boat's crew to make it worthwhile. With the quota, luckily there's enough crab on the grounds to have a fishery, but the fishery's not big enough to send, two large boats.
Fewer boats means less fuel, less maintenance work, less supplies, less money spent here.
Each one of those businesses employs 20 or 30 people, and that ripple effect keeps going out. You get down to the restaurants and everything else, fish aren't there to be served. Now you're talking about restaurant owners and the different wait staff at a restaurant being affected by it.
Casey McManus started fishing at age 5, later starring on Deadliest Catch, and basing his business in Seattle. He says it's not just livelihoods at risk, it's a family's chance to enjoy healthy seafood.
Unfortunately, with the current state of economy, I think it's people are going up to the cash register and they might have a piece of fish in there, but they have their milk, their butter, their eggs, and their cheese. And by the time they get that $100 bill spent for one little basket of groceries, they can't afford the fish. And that's not necessarily their fault, it's the state of our economy right now.
Alaska researchers are working to restore crab populations in the Bering Sea, but businesses hope rapid relief will aid workers in the forms of federal aid, habitat conservation, and people prioritizing fresh-caught fish of all kinds, which are tiding some crabbers over for now.
Buy wild Alaskan seafood. Do not go out and go to a restaurant where you don't know where your seafood came from.
From the Alaskan coast to boats in Seattle's Ballard neighborhood, the return of some Bristol Bay king crab and momentum to restore snow crab makes many hopeful.
Go up there and have just a safe, productive season and, get paid a fair price.
Those who feel at home on the water will return to it however they can. There is sweat and heart and soul in this industry. And even with the challenges staying afloat,
Anybody else want to try a sample of crab?
there's a sense of adventure and pride.
The action's amazing. I love just meeting people from literally all over the world. Like every day is different.
In the careers and lifestyles they love.
To see all of our coverage on crabbing in crisis, text the word crab to 206-448-4545 and we'll send you a link. It's been decades since grizzly bears last called the North Cascades home, but new plans released by the federal government could bring grizzlies back to the area.
The number one question that I get in 18 years of my campground, do we have to worry about bears?
Community members have weighed in, and now Washington state leaders are reviewing that feedback to decide how to move forward. There are 3 plans they're looking at. In one proposed plan, no action would be taken. The other 2 would bring 25 grizzly bears over 10 years back to the North Cascades.
Grizzly bears is certainly a high-profile issue. It's a very complex issue, and there's a huge diversity of values and opinions of different stakeholder groups. It's complex. They were lost here because of people. This is a story of people killing bears.
It is a place where historically we had grizzly bears. We have a significant opportunity to recover grizzly bears in this area.
The National Park Service says a decision will be made by late spring 2024. Researchers say they found a new kind of earthquake threat that could violently shake the Northwest, and they found it by looking at trees. New research in Washington, led by the University of Arizona, shows a double earthquake may have hit the Pacific Northwest 1,100 years ago. Scientists discovered this by studying tree rings that showed when those trees were killed by earthquake activity.
We were able to match the patterns in trees across the 6 sites involved where we had trees killed by earthquake activity.
Researchers say this is important because if it happened before, it could happen again, and now we know to be prepared. Washington State is transitioning to an all-electric ferry fleet. This comes as riders are growingly frustrated with breakdowns, cancellations, and delays. Governor Jay Inslee says the goal is to have an all-electric ferry running between Seattle and Bainbridge Island by 2027. The state says most of the state's fleet should be electric by 2040. Inslee says the fleet will be more reliable and cleaner than the state's current ferries.
Cleaner air, we get quieter boats. We use homegrown electricity instead of sending billions of dollars to the oil and gas companies in Texas. We're behind the curve, but we're building boats now. And when we do it, we're doing it in a way that is more reliable, actually, and cheaper for taxpayers because electricity over the long term is cheaper than fossil fuels.
Washington would be the first state in the country with all-electric ferries. A dangerous cancer is spreading among some shellfish. Researchers want to know why and how to fight it. Our Eric Gazuko spent the day with them collecting samples and found out what's at stake.
The journey to find answers often takes a difficult dig. Here, to find basket cockles before the tide comes in.
Got one here.
It's just one step on the search for solutions. Scientists say a virus-like cancer is spreading among several types of shellfish, including a species the Suquamish tribe was working to restore when they discovered this threat.
We know these cancer cells can actually survive free-floating in the water for at least a number of weeks. And we can tell by looking at the DNA of the cancers that they are different from the cockle that they're in or the clam that they're in.
During the next 5 years, a team of researchers and partners will collect and study samples to learn more about how cancers spread in bivalves and how to stop it, a priority for the Suquamish tribe.
That this is not just a science experiment. This is a life experiment, that this will affect our people. This will affect how we gather our traditional foods.
The tribe has been working to restore populations after factors like pollution and temperatures caused them to decline.
We need to try to keep the Puget Sound, Salish Sea, as clean as we can.
Researchers are collecting the cockles at a number of locations.
I'm just going to walk out for a minute in that direction and back just to see if I see anything on the surface.
Trying to see how much of the Salish Sea has been impacted. Researchers say there's no indication that the cancer can spread from bivalves to other species.
And humans are totally safe. You can eat clams, you can eat mussels, and there is no risk of any danger to human health.
The largest glacier between Mount Rainier and Glacier Peak has almost completely melted away. The Hinman Glacier used to sit on the crest of the Washington Cascades. In the last 55 years, the glacier shrunk by about 96%. Glaciologist Dr. Maury Pelto says this is the biggest North Cascade glacier to disappear.
The summers are warmer, the winters are warmer. We're getting a little more melt in the winter, a little more rain events in the winter. And all those things just are not the right recipe for glaciers to be healthy.
Pelto says shrinking glaciers mean less runoff in streams, which can be detrimental for fish and other industries that rely on snowpack. Where the Columbia River and the Pacific Ocean meet, there is a critical pathway for large ships and the products they carry. But those intense waters can mix things up and make it difficult to pass. Cale Williams talks with a group that works to keep that channel clear.
On a normal day, like right now, you can see it's pretty pleasant. November, December, it gets really crazy out here. If you want to know how to talk to the pilots.
For Jim Holcroft,
this is obviously, they call it the graveyard of the Pacific. We're there, we're in quadrant 4.
There's no such thing as a boring day at the office.
We're dredging this area right there. Between buoys 8 and 10 right here.
We're coming up on it now.
Holcroft is captain of the Essions.
About 3 hours of digging.
A 350-foot dredging vessel operated by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And his office, at least at this time of year, is the Columbia River Bar, where powerful river currents collide with towering swells coming off the Pacific.
So you got the wind, you got the swells, you got the monster ebbs coming out. and it just creates a pretty hectic, dynamic environment is what they refer to it as.
On top of all that, the seafloor just outside the Columbia is constantly shifting as the river spills out sediment picked up along its path from the headwaters in the Canadian Rockies to the mouth at the Pacific.
And all of the water and material comes in suspended into the hopper.
Holcroft's job,
Yeah, we're going to cut inbound. And
along with the 24 crew on board the Essayons, is to dredge the Federal Navigation Channel, keeping it clear for ships across some of the most treacherous waters in the world.
If we didn't maintain the channel, then ships would have to find their own way in, and those sandbars move constantly, which is why they ran aground all the time historically.
The Columbia River entrance sees more than 51 million tons of cargo pass through every year, valued at more than $22 billion, with wheat, timber, cars, and corn topping the list of exports and imports that pass through the bar. The Essayons is equipped with twin drag arms.
You can put the arm out, Corey.
120-ton articulating extensions that drop down to the seafloor.
When he gets to about 3 feet off the bottom, he'll start the pumps.
At the end of those arms are powerful vacuums called drag heads that hoover up all the silt and sand that builds up in the bar.
The section that we work in, we maintain that to 50 to 55 feet. At least if they can count on the channel being down to depth, that's one variable they don't have to worry about.
That slurry of silt and sand is collected in a hopper that takes up much of the interior of the ship.
And you'll see dry sand here eventually.
But Holcroft said that collecting the slurry to keep commerce moving, that's just half the job.
Commerce is big, but so is the environmental now.
The sand that collects here is a resource. It's clean and coarse, and it compacts well. Sand like that shouldn't be wasted. So once the hopper's full, Holcroft directs the ship to one of a few areas called beneficial use sites, where that sand can be put to good use. Doors on the bottom of the ship swing open.
There it goes!
And the roughly 6,000 cubic yards of slurry are spread across the ocean floor.
We don't put this material in the dump to stay there. We just move it. It can't be here, so we got to put it somewhere else, and then Mother Nature disperses it like it's supposed to. We're just aiding the migration to the sea. We put it near the beaches. They put it back up on the beach.
And that's been one of the biggest changes Holcroft has seen over his 40-year career piloting dredge boats. While it may seem like he's in a never-ending fight against Mother Nature, he's actually doing his best to work in concert with it.
So instead of getting it out there where it's gone and out of sight, out of mind, now we just move it to where it stays in the system and it can go where it's supposed to go.
All while traversing some very rough seas and keeping cargo flowing into ports around the Pacific Northwest.
Think about how much trash you produce every day. For most Americans, it adds up to more than 4 pounds per person per day. One family is working to not waste anything, and they showed me how they do it.
Wesley, what would you like for your snack? The normal? Yep, normal. Do you want to hold on to them or do you want them in a bowl?
On a typical weekday morning.
That's in a bowl in 5-year-old language.
The Wall family juggles what many families juggle. High energy kids and some occasional chaos. All expected with a 3 and a 5-year-old. All of this according to Stephanie.
I feel like I'm living a pretty normal life.
But there is one major difference that sets her family apart.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
With a lot less trash.
This family lives zero waste.
I've been living a zero waste lifestyle for 10 years. So for me, it's just habit.
Doing everything they can to make sure nothing ends up in a landfill. Glass and reusable jars fill their kitchen. Subtle, but significant.
Okay, babies.
And a spill from Clara.
That's okay. That happens with raspberries.
Isn't cleaned up with a paper towel, but something reusable.
So let me get you a little wet rag. There you go. Need your face too?
I saw Sky helicopter.
Oh, you saw Sky's helicopter?
Then look at this through the eyes of a 5-year-old.
Yes.
It's not trash.
Every recycled material on here.
It's a robot.
Can do anything you want.
And Stephanie wears the same lens, even prepping a snack for school.
Now, Wesley, you said you don't want crust?
And that part off, okay?
Okay.
Now Stephanie uses the unwanted crust to make croutons a zero waste snack. And see this small bucket? In 1 week, this gets filled once, maybe twice.
So this is our family's kitchen garbage.
Stephanie says when she first started more than 10 years ago, living zero waste wasn't that common, and it was hard.
I remember making my own toothpaste. It was awful.
But now that it's more common, it's easier to find zero waste items, like sustainable paper products.
We don't use toilet paper. I'm just kidding. We do. We buy toilet paper from a company that has different. You can have recycled paper, you can have bamboo.
Home decor, thrift stores, and estate sales, where Stephanie says the quality actually tends to be higher.
I joke with my friends that if you can find something that's not secondhand, I'll give you $1.
Item by item, lowering what ends up in a landfill.
The average person makes, I think, 4.5 pounds of trash, I want to say a day, or is it a week?
The city of Seattle has their own statistics on this.
It's about 2.2 pounds per day per person.
But the EPA's most recent national average is 4.9 pounds per person per day of trash that ends up in a landfill.
There's still some, very tangible things we can do.
And get this, Jeff Fowler with Seattle Public Utilities says if everyone properly composted their food waste, we'd decrease landfill garbage by 20%. And if we did the same for recyclables, we'd decrease another 21%. That's cutting what we put in a landfill by nearly half simply by recycling and composting correctly. Next, he wants people to think like the Wall family.
Okay.
And don't even buy the things that have a short lifespan.
It's a food grade silicone bag.
Be consciously thinking about when we're purchasing materials, what is the end life of this material? How much waste is going to be created?
Something that for the Walls is totally normal.
I think that you can live a beautiful, normal life and still have these practices and not be the stereotype of, people have used the word tree hugger or a, crazy environmentalist. When there's just less stuff to worry about, you have more room to go spend time with friends, to have experiences, to go and, go put your feet in the grass, go play outside in the playground.
Avoiding the material things, keeping the focus on what's important.
It really has made me grateful.
Grateful for a normal life with a lot less trash. That does it for us here with this Environment Northwest special. We want to thank you so much for being with us today.